Hey everyone, I'm Huggy, and this time I'll be showing you the process that I take to texture my clothing. You can see this is the same character from my previous video where I talk about the skin texturing, so I left a card there and a link in the description just in case you missed it. But yeah, let's make some clothes. So this is the model that I have currently, and you see there's gonna be like a little variation with the materials and the clothing that I made, so this is gonna be pretty fun. So yeah, at first we'll be starting with the pants, which is gonna be like a more denim-like texture, so yeah, let's get started. At first I'll create a folder here, and I'll call this just pants. I'll add a white mask to it, and I'll create our base layer. So a fill layer, roughness around 0.8 because I don't want it to be too shiny and reflective. And I'll pick green, bluish kind of color for her pants. Yeah, something like this. So at first we'll be giving this a little bit of color variation, which is gonna be like the tiny weaving patterns that we have. This is not gonna be affecting like height, roughness or anything, it's just color, but yeah. So create a fill layer, use it just for color. So let's go to my textures and I'll be looking for Weave 02 because you see it's this really neat like woven pattern. So yeah, I'll create a black mask, add a fill, and I'll drag our weave here. So for a pattern, I'll bring out tiling to around 12, and the UV tiling maybe 12 as well, probably less. Yeah, 12 is way too much, so maybe 4. Yeah, 4 seems nice. So rotate this because I want it to be angled like pretty straight. Yeah, like this-ish. And the position, I'll be changing it so it doesn't do like that much. And I'll bump up the contrast. And now I'll go back to the color so now I can adjust it better. So this first layer, I'll make it a lighter hue of her base color. Yeah, something like this, maybe even. Yeah, I'll call this color 01. And since our next layer is gonna be pretty similar to this one, I'll just be duplicating it, so call it color 02. And the color for this one is going to be a little darker. And for our mask, I'll take our Weave 2 and I'll rotate it so it has like this neat crisscross effect here, you see. Yeah, and because of this, it almost like washed out my main color, so I'll be compensating it with the base here. Yeah, this seems more like it. Okay, so now I'll be doing like the actual weaving patterns here, so I'll go and create another fill layer. I'll make it only height, and for the height value, I'll plug in fibers. Yeah, fibers 02. So let's plug that in. Make the pattern into 12 again, and the tiling, maybe 24? No, that's too much. 8. Yep, 8 seems about right. And I'll rotate this 45 degrees. Cool. So if we zoom in, we can see that the effect is a little bit too strong, so I'll add a levels here. I'll make it affect height channel, okay, and let's play around with the sliders until we get something good. I mostly want like those depth lines, but I also want these. But I also want this kind of pattern here, but I don't want it being too strong, so something like this seems fine, yeah. Cool, we'll call this Weave 01. And now we'll be making another weaving layer for this, so let's make a fill layer, only height, and the one I'll be plugging into this is Weave 2, so you can see it's way too big, so let's bump the tiling again. This seems about right, and I'm not gonna rotate this one. So now let's add a levels because the effect is a little too strong for my tastes. Let's make it height. Yeah, something that it can like affect the overall pattern, but it doesn't like overwhelm it. Yeah, so it's something more like this. And I'll also right click here and add a filter. This filter is going to be warp because I want it to feel more noisy and add more variation to it. And of course this is way too strong, so I'll use the intensity divider of 100 and play around with the slider until I get something I like. Yeah, something around this. Cool, so now we have the base of our pants, so now we'll be making it pop out a little more. So first off, I'll be adding some discoloration here in the middle, so I'll add a fill layer. I'll keep it white for now for visualization, and then I'll be tweaking the color, so discoloration. And I'll add a black mask, and the brush I'll be using is Smooth Noisy. So now I'll be like painting some light discolorations here, like around the knees and places like that where you would be like naturally losing color, so it has this like washed out effect. But yeah, very gentle strokes and just not going too hard in it. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, something around this. Alright, now for the next layer we'll be adding a little bit of ambient occlusion, so I'll make this color only again, and the color itself, it's gonna be dark bluish. I usually like to go with like a colder hue of like your main color, so because I went like greenish, now I'll be more into like the blue side, and the blending style I'll set to multiply. So I'll be adding a black mask here, a fill layer, and the fill going to a project and taking the ambient occlusion from my pants. And of course this is in the inverse of what we want, so I'll add a levels and I'll invert it. This is a little bit too strong for me, so I'll play around with the sliders so it's not like too overwhelming. Yeah, something like this seems okay. We definitely don't want to overdo this. Now for the next layer I'll be adding curvature, so let's add a fill layer, color, and I want to make like some very like light edges, so here I'll make it like a pretty light color, yeah, something around here. I'll call this curve, and once again I'll add a black mask, fill, and our curvature. It's already pretty close to the effect I want, but I'll still add a level so I could play around and actually see better things. Yeah, something like that. Let's go back to our material view, and you can see like how everything is already popping out more. So yeah, this is definitely what I want. Oh, I also forgot about a thing. I forgot about creating a mask for our Weave 01, because I don't want it affecting the elastic band here, so I'll add a white mask, and I'll mask out this part. Same goes to Weave too. Cool. So now we'll be adding the stitches for this. I usually really like hand painting my stitches instead of using like procedural methods, so now I'll be showing my setup and time-lapsing everything so you don't get bored to death. But yeah, so I'll add a paint layer this time, call this stitches, and I'll go into my brushes. I'll scroll down until I find the stitch brushes. Yep. So this is Stitches Straight, which you can see it's already like a built-in stitching tool, which I really like. For this one, I'll make the stitches maybe white. Yeah, white really fits. And for that I'll use a running double. Let's decrease the size a little bit. And I still think that this is a little too uniform, so I'm going back here and I'll be using a little bit of angle jitter. Not too much or else it becomes like too jagged. But yeah, I like having this kind of variation from the jittering here. And now going back to the advanced parameters, because I think the stitches here are a little bit too close together and a little bit too thick, so I changed the length and the width to a little lower value. Yeah, this seems about right. So now we'll be painting our stitches. I'll activate lazy mouse because my hands aren't that steady. So yeah. Cool. Now we have our stitches as well, so now I think I want to make the pants a little bit darker. So I'll go back to my previous colors and tweak things a little bit. Yeah, this seems about right. Cool, so now I'll be texturing this little rope bit here, so I'll go back to my pants mask, and I'll exclude the rope bits here. There we go. Now create another folder, I'll call it rope. Now give it a black mask so I could include these manually. Okay, and for the main color of this, I'll be using like an orangey, more like brownish kind of color, so maybe something around this, yeah. Now the roughness will be around 0.8 as well, and now we'll be adding some weaving patterns pretty close to what we did on the base pants. So I'll add a fill layer, make it only height, and I'll add a fibers chew to it. The same thing, I'll increase the pattern until it is a value that I actually like. Rotate it 45 degrees, this is too small. Yeah, maybe something around an 8. Yeah, so I'm not gonna do any kind of like levels adjusting for this one, so I'll just call this rope. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna do anything fancy to this, so yeah. So now our pants are done. So now let's go to the shirt. So the t-shirt will also be a process very similar to what we did with the pants. So let's get going. I'll create a folder, I'll call it shirt, and I'll add a black mask this time because I only want the shirt to be masked here. Now let's create our base layer. Now choose like something very dark, almost black. That usually don't like using pure black for anything because it feels like it almost interferes with like the shading you get with the lights. So I'd strongly advise to not use either like pure black or pure white, usually staying away from like the far edges of our color block. So yeah, roughness around 0.8. So now we'll start creating our weaving patterns. So for the shirt I want to use a checker. So checker 01, only height, so let's drag our checker here. Once again, bring up the tiling, so yeah, this seems about right. Rotate it 45 degrees, and I will decrease the intensity a little bit, so I'll add a levels, effect height, and take the slider down a little bit. Something like that seems nice. And I'll also add a warp, so filter and warp. And once again, now use our intensity divider to 100, so we have like those nice bumpy noisy parts in here. And now I'll go straight away to the ambient occlusion and curvature maps, because I won't be doing like that much to the shirt here, so I'll make it like a dark purple. I'll bump this to multiply, and I'll create a black mask with a fill thing. So now I'll go back into project and plug in the ambient occlusion from our shirt. And once again, it's in reverse from what we want, so let's add our levels, invert that, and I'll tweak the sliders a little bit so we don't get like those super dark spots, which is not something I really want. Yeah, that seems nice. And now let's make the curvature one. So a fill layer, I'll use color, and like a lighter shade. Let's make it really light for now. So yeah, a black mask, fill, and our curvature. So now let's go to levels again and just tweak things. And tweak the color a bit because I think this is a little too light. Yeah, something like that. And now I'll be adding some fake folds here, which also helps out a lot with adding to the effect here. So I'll create a fill layer, make it only height, and we'll be looking for the crystal texture. So crystal 2. Now just take a look at height here, and you can see this pattern is a little too big, so I'll make it a little smaller so we can see things better. Let's go back to our material, and you can already see those folds here, but also rotate. So yeah, something like this will do. Yeah, all this folds. And this time I'll add a black mask to this because I want it to be masked by curvature, so I'll just look at the mask alone here, and I'll add a generator. And of course this generator will be our position. And you see, like, I want it to be stronger on the bottom and weaker on the top, so I'll go here to position gradient and I'll invert it. Yeah. And now it's just a matter of tweaking the sliders until I get something that I like. Yeah, something like that. So now when we go back to the material, we can see the effects of what we done. just pretty neat. And now I want to add like a logo here to our chest, so I'll go into my files and look for my logo. I'll drag it inside the substance here, and I'll make it an alpha. You can see we have the alpha here. So now I'll add another fill layer, and this fill layer I want affecting color, height, and roughness, so it's just, but so far I'll keep it at default settings and tweak it later. So I'll add a black mask with a paint layer. Now just go back to like a default brush for this, so maybe basic hard, and I'll go into the alphas and project, so you can see like the alpha I just dragged in. Now let's adjust it a little bit. Yeah, something like this. And now I'm going back to the settings, so make this like a purple-ish color, roughness to around 0.5-ish, because I want it to stick out of the clothes a little bit, but I don't want it to stick out too much. And now we're going for the stitches, so once again, paint layer. I already have my stitches, my stitch settings over here. Okay, so now that we took care of the stitches, we can go to the sleeves now. So the sleeves are actually pretty simple. Kinda texture, as this I just want to be like a fluffy, almost like sock-like pattern. So yeah, let's create the folder for it, call it sleeves. Now make it a mask just for them. Here we go. And now once again, let's create our base layer. The roughness for this will be around 0.8 as well. So let's make this black-ish. This I want to be a little warmer, so it has like a little contrast with the t-shirt. But yeah, now let's make our first weaving layer. So I'll call this weave 1. The process is actually gonna be pretty similar to how we did the pants. So we're going back to our textures here, and I'll plug fiber 2 into height. So let's increase the tiling here. And this time I'm not gonna make it 45 degrees, I want it to actually follow along our sleeves here, so maybe 12, no 12 is too much, so 6, maybe 4. Yeah, 4 seems nice. So let's go back to our levels, and I'll make this a little softer. Yeah, like so. And now I'll add a warp. Once again, divided by 100, so we can have like the noise and the clumps, but not too much. And now we'll be adding another weaving here, so height, and the one's gonna be weave 02. So once again, let's increase the tiling, make it 45 degrees. Yeah, this seems about right, so let's go to our levels, height, and let's make it lighter. Maybe a little bigger actually, so tiling maybe to 2, no, just a little too much, so 3. 3 seems nice, yeah. So let's add our warp filter to this one too. Yeah, something like this. And now this is meant to be like striped, which I already painted in ZBrush, so now I'll be bringing it back as an ID map, so I'll make another layer, I'll make it only color. It'll be this shade of white for now, but I'll be changing later on. And this I'll use a mask with color selection. And I'll go here and pick color. So now I can pick like the white part of it. And there you go. I'm just coming close to actually check if things are alright. Let me tone down the hardness a little bit because I want the edges to be a little smoother. And I'll also add a little bit of height to this. Nice. I'll change it to a more warmer tone. There we go. Now we'll be adding the ambient occlusion and curvature details to this. Pretty much the same as what we did on the pants and the shirt, so yeah, nothing much to comment about here. So yeah, now that we took care of those, I don't really want to add stitches to this, so let's leave it as it is right now. And as we see, we are almost done with her now. Looking good. So now let's go to her shoes, which is gonna be pretty much the more complex part of this. So let's isolate so we can actually see what's going on. And yeah, so the shoes here, it's gonna have like lots of different materials to it. So let's go to the simplest one first, that it's gonna be the soles. Because for the soles, like, I haven't really thought of like any better way than just using a smart material, to be honest. So here I'll be using a rubber smart material. So yeah, and for it I'll be using the rubber dry smart material. So let's add a black mask and select only the soles here. And this part on the top too. Okay, so now let's start editing our thing, because I don't really want this color here. Let's make the color here white. Yeah, once again, I'm not using pure white. I like having a little bit of color here and not going all the way. So pretty much staying away from the edges. I'll keep this roughness here, but I don't want it everywhere. So let me make it lower and take it away a little bit from this part on top. So I'll add a paint, and I'll paint the geometry itself. I'll paint it, and yeah. So now I'll create another color. So now I'll create another color layer, and I'll make it pink. Which this is gonna be like the second color for this. So only color, I'll add a black mask and select only the places that I want, which will be this little part here on front and the actual bottom of the soles. Call this pink, because that's what it is. Now I'll be doing the fabric part of this, which is gonna be pretty similar to how we did the pants and the shirt, so let's go. I'll make it a random color just so I can see my mask better, so yeah. I'll just mask in the places that I need and leave out the places I don't. So these are the parts that I'll be using a fabric pattern, so let's make this our base layer, which will also be white. And the roughness around 0.8. So now let's make our weaving pattern again, which I'll be using the checker, so pretty similar to how we did the t-shirt. Okay, so levels, let's make it a little weaker, and add some noise with the warp filter. Okay, so now I'll add in the different colors that we'll be having here. So now we'll be having a shade of pink, which I'll just color pick from the rubber layer. Okay, so now for the other color, which is a shade of teal. So let's add a teal layer. Yeah, so now I'll be painting the eyes here, so now I'll add a black layer, which I'm not even really gonna be like painting because I already did back in ZBrush, so this is also gonna be a color selection mask. And there we go. Yeah, and now we'll be adding the ambient occlusion layer here. Nothing much to say that I haven't already said about it. Okay, so now I'll be using another smart material for this plastic bit here. So let's go back to our smart materials, and I want some kind of shiny plastic. So let's go with plastic glossy. And once again, I'll create a black mask and mask out only these plastic bits. So again, I'll change the color from blue to black. I actually don't really like just how shiny it is, it's a little too much, so let me bump up the roughness a little bit, and yeah, feels better already. And now I'll be making a texture for the strap here, which would be pretty similar to our rope. I'll create a folder, we'll call this strap. I'll make it black, 0.8 roughness. I'll create a mask here, and I'll mask out only the strap bits. Let's cut the space, and now make another layer with our fiber pattern. So fibers 2, make the size 12, the tiling about maybe 8, no 8 is too much, so 4. Yeah, 4 seems nice, so let's make it 45 degrees rotation, and there we go. Our shoes are now fully textured as well. Okay, so we already done everything we had for Substance, so I'll be exporting the textures and see you in Blender. And yeah, now we're back to Blender so we could properly see the textures on our character. And yeah, we can see like how soft her sleeves look and like the patterns on her pants and her shirt. So yeah, this was how I make textures for my characters. Hope you enjoyed it. I'd be really glad if I helped you out somehow. And yeah, this is Huggy signing out. Love you all.